Man, these doll movies are quite popular these days. Toy Story 4, Child's Play, Annabelle Comes Home, all within a week of each other. Holy shit. So, as you guys saw, I was not a fan of Child's Play, and holy crap, was that a divisive film. If you're not on one side or the other side lets you know how displeased they are with you. It's my most disliked video I have because I hated it, and so many people are loving it, which is great. If you love it, fantastic. That's amazing. Attacking people who didn't like it is silly. But anyway, so Annabelle Comes Home. Now, to give you a quick little insight into how I feel about the Conjuring universe as a whole, I really enjoy Conjuring 1 and 2, like most people. Annabelle is nowhere near as bad as people say it is. I think it's a mediocre, generic film, but to say it's like the worst movie ever, it was like panned like it was one of the worst movies of all time. Bullshit. It's totally fine. I liked parts of it, didn't like other parts of it, felt pretty generic. That's that. Annabelle Creation was a much better film. It was a step in the right direction, big improvement over the first one. The Nun I didn't really care for. I thought it was really well shot. I thought the atmosphere was okay, pretty cool. The look, the aesthetics, all that was well done. But I just didn't buy into the story. I didn't really care for the characters. It just didn't work for me. The Nun was a failure for me in the Conjuring universe. And then The Curse of La Llorona came out, and I was not even sure if that was a Conjuring universe film until I saw it and saw the connection. Was like, oh, it actually is set in the Conjuring universe. Cool. And I really enjoyed that movie. I was very surprised by that. I expected it to be extremely generic. But it ended up having some charm to it that I really dug, and Linda Cardellini is amazing as usual and is probably the big reason of why I really enjoyed that movie. So there's my thoughts on the Conjuring universe, so you know where I stand on it. So if you have similar thoughts, then hopefully you share the same opinion here as I do on Annabelle Comes Home, which is, I loved this movie. I absolutely loved it. I mean, I think it's far superior to the first one, of course, but I think it's even much better than Creation. And I liked Creation a good amount. I wouldn't say I really enjoyed it, but I did like it a good amount. But I absolutely loved Annabelle Comes Home. It's actually my favorite horror film of 2019. I did not expect that going into it, that I would actually love it that much. It's just this one really worked for me all around. It felt more like a Conjuring movie, to be honest, because Ed and Lorraine Warren here, by Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga's characters, I was expecting a quick cameo. And while they're not in the entire film by any means, they're in this a good amount longer than I was expecting. I would say upwards to 15 to 20 minutes. So that was surprising to me, and I really enjoyed it because they're probably my favorite on-screen horror couple ever. There's something about them. They're very endearing. They're very believable. There's such great chemistry between them. I love when they're on screen together. So that really worked for me. Kind of taking from The Conjuring and putting it into this movie, which is fine because it is pretty heavily connected. Because this is the one where they actually finally utilized Ed and Lorraine Warren's artifact room. They have so much to draw from in there, and they really did. Now, Gary Dauberman, who wrote most of the Conjuring universe movies, finally took over as director for the very first time. This is his directorial debut, and he crushed it. He wrote, this guy has been writing shit for a long time. He has a very impressive pedigree in horror. He's had a good amount of misfires. I'm not going to say he hasn't, but he has been pretty prolific in horror. He is the creator of Swamp Thing. He wrote The Nun, It, Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 that's coming out, Annabelle Creation. He did Wolves at the Door, Within, the first Annabelle, and a couple of those freaking Man-Eater movies. You guys know what that Man-Eater series is? Like Blood Monkey and stuff. He did a couple of those, and then another like made for TV. So he has done a lot of horror. So this guy has a lot of horror under his belt. He really understands the genre, and he showcases it here. I thought he did a phenomenal job. I loved the atmosphere. I absolutely adored the characters. They fully sold me. We have McKenna Grace here taking over for Sterling Jenis, is I think I or Gerens, however you say that girl's name, who played Judy Warren in the Conjuring 1 and 2. And I thought she was fantastic as Judy. Madison Eisman plays a character named Mary Ellen, which is kind of funny because that was the street I grew up on when I was a kid, Mary Ellen Street. And then there's an actress named Katie Sarif. She plays a character named Daniela, and man, I love Daniela. And Daniela is, I don't want to get too spoilerific with this. I'm not going to talk spoilers much, but I don't know. I didn't watch the trailer, so I don't know what they give away in that. But as you can guess, Annabelle is in the Warrens' house. It's locked away, and it gets out. And yeah, so as I said, I don't know how to speak about on this, but let's just, if you want to avoid any spoilers at all, go ahead and shut it off right here. I love this movie. I'm not going to talk spoilers, but I'm just going to kind of give a brief synopsis. So Ed and Lorraine Warren bring Annabelle home, which I thought was a really cool sequence when they're driving her home. All that stuff was really creepy and eerie. But then they bring it home and they leave Judy home with Mary Ellen, and she's babysitting, and her friend comes over and snoops around where she shouldn't be and lets Annabelle out. Now, this is one of those movies, like all horror movies, where somebody's doing something and you want to yell at the screen like, why would they do that? And that's so stupid and this and that. Now, while I do think there will be people who feel that way, I felt like the reasoning behind why Daniela is doing what she's doing is so well fleshed out and so buyable to me that I never felt like that in this movie at all. Now, this movie has tons of spin-off potential. On purpose, no doubt about it. But there are new characters introduced here that are in none of the other movies that could easily have their own film, their own, spin-off. And I would absolutely go and see any one of them. Negatives, I really don't have any, to be completely honest. I thought that this was a very old school horror movie. It had tons and tons of subtle, slow build, earned atmosphere. Not lots of jump scares. There are some, because modern day audiences do want those things. So there are some, but there's no fake out scares, none. The scares are rarely accompanied with loud screeching music and stuff like that for added startle effect, cheap shit that I can't stand. None of that stuff. It is all thrown aside here. The characters are what really sold this movie for me, though. The horror and the characters both, and they blended so well. And here's another thing. This movie injects really well-balanced, properly placed humor. A big problem I had with Child's Play for me. I know there's people who love it, and that's awesome. Great for you. Honestly, I'm not being a dick. Genuinely, great for you that you enjoyed it. I felt the comedy was misplaced like crazy in that movie. I thought the comedy here was so genuine and really felt like fit the flow of the film and the characters in the moment. And I thought the characters were likable, lovable, to be completely honest. Daniela, I loved her. I fell in love with this girl. I fell in love with Mary Ellen. I fell in love with Judy Warren. I fell in love with Ed and Lorraine Warren again. I even freaking liked the Bob, the love interest of Mary Ellen. I loved the pizza guy. He's only in it for a couple minutes, but I thought he was hilarious. Like, everything was just landing for me. This is like an old school, spooky, haunted house movie with lots of unnecessary fog machine, like kind of swooping in. Everything feels almost gothic in a sense. Like, I love it. The cinematography is fantastic. Like, it's dark, but you can still see everything. It's rich, but it's also dark. Like, the way this is shot, the way this is done, I know I'm just like blowing this movie, and there will be people who are like, oh my god, he loved this but hated Child's Play. What a loser! Like, it's just silly to me. But okay, I gotta stop bringing that up. It's just funny to me. But I really did, man. And there's such subtlety in the background. This is something that I love that James Wan did in the Conjuring universe films that he did, the Conjuring 1 and 2, and also in stuff like Insidious 1 and 2, where, if you remember in the first Insidious, when our main character is walking through the house, if it's something that like probably half the theater or more didn't even notice. But you remember, like when they move the first time, or well, I think the last time technically, they move into a new house, but then they move into a new house later in the movie. And when she's walking through, there's like a boy just standing in the corner over there. It's like a blink and you miss it. It's subtle horror. It's not in your face. Doesn't have to pop out and go boo. It's just unsettling, creepy horror. Kind of like in Hereditary, when there's somebody up in the corner of the room. You don't even notice that they're there until your eyes eventually find them. And it's like little Easter eggs for multiple viewings. Like, oh, I never even noticed that little thing back in the background where something's happening. And all the ferryman stuff. I loved the way that this was all done. I loved the way that it was shot. There's a lot of cool, new, interesting like scares, and there's a board game that I really liked how it was used. At first I thought it was just kind of thrown away, but then it actually gets used pretty well. There's all sorts of cool gimmicks in here, but they feel natural. They feel so right in the movie. God, I really loved this movie. It's in contention from, I know people fucking like laugh at this, but it's like in contention to be like my favorite fucking movie in the Conjuring universe. I loved it that much. I really bought into the characters. I really bought into everything that was happening here, the horror, all of it. And another thing too, the characters are so fleshed out, and something that a lot of movies like this will do is they'll kind of forget to have proper closure with every character. It's almost like they're forgotten. It's like plot lines that are kind of abandoned towards the end, like, oh, I thought this was going somewhere, and then it never did. But I feel like our main characters here, like the three girls that I have mentioned, and even Bob or stuff like that, like I feel like they all get their closure in one way or another. And I was just like, I don't know if they're gonna do that. And then it happens, and I was like, oh, cool, you didn't forget. It felt like a writer who genuinely cared about his characters. And since he's a writer and director, James Wan did the story, which James Wan has helped with the writing in a lot of these movies. He helped him with the writing in The Nun, so I don't know about that one. But regardless, I don't know who was in charge of everything on the writing side of things, but I feel like they were all really well fleshed out. I was very impressed by this movie, as you can tell. I give it a huge thumbs up. If you're a fan of the franchise, if you're like, oh, I liked them all, or I've really enjoyed most of them, I really think you're going to enjoy the hell out of this one. It is a great entry to this franchise, and I mean, as long as they're good. I never understand why people are like, oh, they're making another one, oh, they're doing a spin-off. Like, if it's a good movie, it's a good movie. Who cares? Go enjoy it. Have fun. I mean, if they make fucking 50 spin-offs from this, if they're good, bring them on. So yeah, make me movies from other characters and cursed objects and whatnot in this movie. Absolutely, I'd check them out. If they're this good, hell yeah, I'll watch them all day. So anyway, guys, I am super curious to see what the general consensus is going to be on this one, because man, I was so wrong about Child's Play. I really thought everyone was going to hate it like me, and holy shit, I would say it's more than 50% loved it. In fact, almost all my friends who I usually share similar opinions with were just so surprised by the other one's opinion. It's just like, I loved it, and I'm like, what? How? What the fuck? Crazy. So, I'm looking forward to what people think about this one. So let me know what you guys think. And if you differ with my opinion and you want to give me shit below, go for it. I love fucking with you back. Adios.